Intermittent reinforcement is a psychological concept from behavioral science. It refers to a pattern in which a reward is given inconsistently. Not every time a behavior occurs, but only sometimes, and often unpredictably. This creates a powerful conditioning effect, where the individual becomes more attached to the behavior that sometimes brings pleasure or relief, even though it often brings disappointment or pain. The classic example is a slot machine. It doesn't pay out every time. In fact, it rarely does. But every now and then, unpredictably, it delivers a win. And that rare, unpredictable win lights up the brain's reward circuitry and keeps the gambler hooked, chasing the next high. Now imagine this same mechanism applied not to money or gambling, but to love, to attention, validation, or connection. Instead of a machine giving you coins, it's a romantic partner giving you affection. Sporadically. Sometimes they text back. Sometimes they open up. Sometimes they give you everything you crave. And then, silence. Distance. Emotional coldness. The emotional unpredictability becomes the hook. You're not addicted to the person, you're addicted to the pattern. When rewards are inconsistent, the brain releases more dopamine, not less. This might sound counterintuitive, but it's rooted in neuroscience. Our brains are wired to seek out patterns and predict outcomes. When a reward is given consistently, the brain adjusts and becomes less reactive over time. But when a reward is unpredictable, it activates a much deeper part of the brain, the anticipation system. This is what creates the high of maybe. You don't even need the actual reward. The mere possibility that it might come is enough to keep you engaged. This is the biological foundation of craving. In relationships, this means the more inconsistent someone is, especially if they occasionally meet your needs, the harder it becomes to detach. You're chasing the dopamine hit of reconnection, not unlike a gambler chasing a win or an addict chasing a fix. In romantic dynamics, intermittent reinforcement often looks like a partner who is sometimes loving but often distant, someone who gives you just enough to keep you hoping but never enough to feel secure. It's that hot and cold pattern, intense intimacy followed by sudden withdrawal. There might be occasional deep conversations, but then stonewalling or ghosting. Moments of closeness are unpredictable, inconsistent, and rare, but honestly, they're powerful enough to feel intoxicating. What's dangerous is that the moments of closeness can feel so meaningful, so emotionally charged, that they override the many moments of neglect or discomfort. You start to believe that those few powerful moments reflect the person's real self, and that the emotional unavailability is just a phase, a wound, or something you can heal with enough love. This creates the perfect psychological trap. Your brain is conditioned to tolerate neglect and unpredictability in exchange for rare moments of connection. You stop noticing the pattern of pain because, honestly, you're always hoping for the next emotional win. People with an anxious attachment style are especially vulnerable to this dynamic. They often have a deep-rooted fear of abandonment and a craving for closeness. But they also struggle to feel secure, even when someone is right there. This creates a constant need for reassurance, connection, and emotional attunement. When paired with a partner who is inconsistent, especially someone with an avoidant attachment style, the anxious person's attachment system goes into overdrive. They start to chase, to cling, to overanalyze. They mistake anxiety for love and tension for chemistry. So, here's what really makes intermittent reinforcement so toxic for folks with anxious attachment. First, it mirrors those childhood attachment wounds, where love was unpredictable. It also reinforces this deep belief that they have to work for love. Their nervous system gets triggered into fight or flight, and then there's this big sense of relief when closeness is restored. And honestly, it keeps them stuck in this trauma bond cycle. Pain, then a relief high, and then more pain. For someone who's anxious, intermittent attention actually feels familiar, and familiar can so easily get mixed up with what's safe. But the truth is, it's not safe. It's really just what the nervous system has learned to expect from love. Avoidantly attached individuals tend to fear emotional closeness and vulnerability. When connection feels too intimate, they pull away to protect themselves. This distancing, whether emotional or physical, activates the anxious person's attachment wound. But here's the twist. When the anxious person starts to panic, reach out, or demand closeness, the avoidant person often temporarily returns to restore equilibrium. They might offer some affection, connection, or even an apology, not because they're ready for intimacy, but because they want to reduce the pressure. And just like that, the cycle resets. The anxious person feels temporarily soothed. They do care, and the avoidant feels relieved that the crisis is over. But nothing is actually repaired, and so the next distancing event is only a matter of time. This push-pull dynamic is intermittent reinforcement in action. The avoidant gives enough to keep the anxious partner engaged, but not enough to create true intimacy or stability. And the anxious person, hooked on hope, stays stuck, often blaming themselves, trying harder or shrinking their needs to keep the connection alive. Another layer of the trap is the illusion of progress. Every time the avoidant partner opens up a little more, responds to a message, or gives a glimpse of connection, the anxious partner sees it as a sign that things are getting better. See? They're changing. Oh, they're finally softening. It's working. But it's not consistent, and it's not dependable. It's just intermittent reinforcement doing what it does best, keeping you invested in a dynamic that gives you breadcrumbs. You start living on hope, hoping for change, hoping this time will be different, hoping if you just love better, wait longer, or heal more, they'll meet you halfway. But you can't heal a relationship dynamic that is designed to keep you insecure. Intermittent reinforcement creates what's known as a trauma bond, a strong emotional attachment formed through repeated cycles of abuse, neglect, and occasional reward. It's not love, it's not safety. It's a nervous system stuck in survival mode. True connection, on the other hand, is built on consistency, presence, and emotional responsiveness. It's not filled with highs and lows. It's not a roller coaster. In fact, to someone used to trauma bonds, real love can initially feel kind of boring, uneventful, not intense enough. But this is the healing, learning that love doesn't have to hurt to feel real. That connection can be stable and meaningful. That consistency is not a lack of passion. It's actually a sign of emotional maturity. Breaking free from the grip of intermittent reinforcement is not just a mental decision. It's a nervous system journey. Your brain has literally been wired to chase the reward, so stepping away from the cycle may feel like withdrawal. But healing is possible. Here's where to start. First, name the pattern. Once you identify that you're in an intermittent reinforcement loop, everything changes. Awareness is power. Next, stop rationalizing the breadcrumbs. A few good moments do not erase a pattern of emotional neglect. Consistency is the standard, not intensity. Then, connect to your body. Trauma bonds are felt in the nervous system. Learn to notice the difference between feeling anxious and feeling loved. Fourth, grieve the fantasy. Often, we're not grieving the person. We're grieving the hope of what we wanted them to become. That fantasy was built on intermittent rewards. Now reclaim your self-worth. You deserve connection that doesn't require proving, chasing, or tolerating emotional starvation. And finally, seek safety, not intensity. Real love may feel unfamiliar at first. That's okay. Let your nervous system relearn what healthy connection feels like. If you've been stuck in a cycle with an emotionally unavailable or avoidant partner, and you just can't seem to let go, know this: it's not about weakness. It's not about you being too sensitive or too needy. You are not broken. You are, honestly, just biologically and emotionally responding to a powerful psychological mechanism that was probably wired in you long before this person even arrived. Intermittent reinforcement is, well, addictive because it mirrors early attachment wounds. It teaches us to tolerate emotional uncertainty and to chase connection from those who can't consistently give it. But that's not love. That's survival. You deserve more than survival. You deserve reciprocity, emotional nourishment, consistency. Real love does not confuse. It doesn't leave you wondering where you stand. It stands with you. And the moment you stop chasing someone who only shows up sometimes, you begin the journey back to yourself, your safety, your worth, and your wholeness.